Hi everyone, I'm John from Sophos and welcome to this short video where we'll be looking at some of the centralized management features of the XG firewall, and we'll also be looking at the reporting that you can access inside Sophos Central. So we'll begin by looking at the central management dashboard before moving on to remote configuration using USB drives. Then we'll look at registering a device to Sophos Central before we consider grouping and firewall policies. Then we'll move on to firmware management before making a shift over to reporting. So we'll take an overview of Sophos Central firewall reporting, followed by customized reports and scheduled reports to finish. So here's the dashboard inside Sophos Central, and to the left hand side you can see all of the products that you can manage inside Sophos Central. But what we're going to do is focus, of course, in this session on the firewall. So we're going to scroll down and we're going to open up firewall management. You can see front and center you've got the alerts that you need to be aware of in your estate that are stratified into high, medium and informational alerts. So you can see if there's anything that requires your immediate attention. You can also see the number of firewalls that are connected. In this case we have 3. And we can see the protection alerts for the last 2 hours. So things like advanced threat protection and intrusion attacks. Right, if we open up the firewalls themselves, we can see the 3 firewalls that we have under management. And we can see that they are connected, and we can also see the version that they're running. Now, if you need to add any more firewalls in, you can do this in one of 2 ways. There's a plus button here that you can add in a new firewall which is not yet configured. And this is really neat. So if you've just bought a new hardware appliance, for example, then what you can do is use the wizard inside Sophos Central to create a config file that you can then flash to a USB pen drive and then boot up your XG firewall with that drive inserted. And that will copy the configuration that you've created over to that device. So it's a really quick and simple way of provisioning a device, and also quite a nice way of being able to provision a device remotely. So you can email that file out as well and have somebody else put it on a USB stick, and maybe get a junior technician to plug in the cables and boot that device up. The other way you can add a firewall in is if you already have one which is out there in the field and configured, then you can add in the serial number to Sophos Central, and that will enable remote management features on that firewall that's already out there. What you'll also need to do if you have a device already out in the field is register it with Sophos Central. So you can go through the process of enabling the registration here, and that will open up the world of additional services like Security Heartbeat and the Sophos Central services. So in here you can enter your pre-existing account details, or you can register for Sophos Central if you don't already have an account. And in the background the firewall will connect up to your Sophos Central account, and we can see here that the registration has been successful. This has then automatically enabled things like Security Heartbeat, so this is the integration with the Sophos endpoint, and it's enabled synchronized application control. And then we have one other option here to enable Sophos Central services. So this is where we're managing the firewall from Sophos Central, and this is also where we can access the centralized management capabilities that you'll find inside Sophos Central as well. So I'm going to tick both of the boxes so that we can unleash the full power of Sophos Central, and then I'm going to hit apply. And if we hop back to Sophos Central, then we can see that this firewall that has requested access to our Sophos Central account is now awaiting approval. So I can make sure that the firewall that's trying to join my estate is indeed correct, and by clicking the accept services, then that is going to bring that firewall into my estate. In order to make it easier to manage firewalls, then what you can also do is drop those devices into groups. So what we're going to do is highlight some of the available devices we have on the left hand side, and we're going to assign them into groups to make it easier to see which device is where, and to create rules and policies appropriate to the types of environments that these firewalls are being deployed in. So what we're going to do is create a group called leads, and we're going to drop these 2 firewalls into that group and save it. So now you can see we've got 2 ungrouped firewalls, and we've got a group in leads. And what I'm going to do is just create another group as well. We're going to call this group Birmingham. And again, what I'm going to do is grab the other 2 firewalls and assign them to that group as well. So what we've done is very easily organized our estate so that we've got those devices. And again, if we open those groups up, you can see those devices in there. And you'll notice as well that the one we've just added in is just going through a process of synchronization. So it's copying all the rules and policies across and bringing that device into Sophos Central. Now what we can do is also use the firewall management to actually create centralized rules and policies. So what I'm going to do here is create a new firewall rule. And you'll see that that applies to my group Birmingham. So if I create a new firewall rule in here, then all the devices in that Birmingham group will get a copy of that policy and we'll start applying it immediately. So this is just like creating a firewall rule on an individual firewall itself. So what we're doing is creating a name for it and defining the typical things you'd find in a firewall policy, like source zones, source networks, and things like destination addresses. And we can, as you can see here, we can actually add new objects in using this wizard as well. So we've got the internal network here as a source, and we're going to have this policy apply to traffic going to the WAN zone using HTTP and HTTPS. And I can tick the box here to log that traffic and apply that policy. So that policy is now being pushed out to all the devices in the Birmingham group, and they're all subscribing to that. So if we make any small amendments, any changes to that policy, again, that will automatically be rolled out to all the devices that are under management. So it really makes it easy to manage the estate as one. And you can see that it's synchronizing now. So again, that's Sophos Central pushing those rules out to the device that we've just created. So one of the other useful things that you can do inside Sophos Central is you can coordinate the management of firmware on your devices. So if we take a look at the list, you'll see that 3 out of my 4 firewalls are running the latest release, but this one here with the green prompt is running a slightly older version. So it's running version 18.0.1. And that green prompt is indicating that we can download and we can update that firmware. So if we click through the green prompt, then we can choose to schedule an upgrade, which we can choose to do either immediately or we can plan for some point in the future. And you can see that we can select which version of firmware we'd like to upgrade to. And as I said, whether we want to do that immediately or whether we'd rather plan that for some time in the future, that might cause less impact to the business by minimizing downtime, for example. If we hop back to the dashboard, we can also look at the task queue. So this will show us all the tasks that are outstanding from Sophos Central and which groups or individual firewalls are subject to those updates. And we can see the status of those updates. So we can see whether they've been pushed out or whether they're scheduled for the future. And we can see who's carried out those actions, and we can find out what type of action that is. So in this case, it's device management templates, and you can see the time and date as well. It'll also show you as well a narrowed view that shows you the pending transactions. So these are transactions that will be happening in the future. We've got stuff that is in progress at the moment. And if any have failed or have been skipped for any particular reason, then those are also shown in the task queue as well. So nice, easy view there to see who's made changes, what changes are coming down the line, and if there are any problems that require your attention. As well as being a management tool, Sophos Central is also great for reporting as well. So you can use Sophos Central to store up to 7 days worth of reporting from your firewall free of charge. And there are licensable options to increase that data retention for up to 365 days or 1 year. So if we hop into the admin section of our licensing, we can see the licenses that we have here for Central Firewall reporting. And you can see all the firewalls that you have inside Sophos Central and whether they're licensed for the free of charge tier or if they're licensed for the advanced option, which allows you to retain data for up to a year. Now, if you do want to buy the advanced licenses, they come in 100 gigabyte blocks. You can't split to the 100 gigabyte licensing. between the devices, but you can stack them if you need to. So you can see at the moment here we have 2 devices that are running the advanced license, and we've actually purchased 3. So if, for example, we've got a device running at head office and we know that we're going to need to have higher volumes of data that need to be retained for a longer period of time, then we can choose to stack that licensing up. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to hit the little plus button here and add one of those licensing stacks onto one of my devices, so that I know I've got extra space available to be able to report activity on that device for longer. And you can see that it's estimating the length of data retention based on my current consumption. And when I hit save, then that's going to change my licensing allocation. So you can see that 3 of 3 licenses are now being used, and I've got that extra space available on my device. Okay, so let's have a look at the reports themselves. So what I can do here is choose to select individual firewalls, or I can select groups of firewalls, and I can pull out the reporting data that I want. And if we wait for a short while, we can see that it's pulled in all of that data. So we can see, for example, on the network interface section there, we can see information about security reports. We can see the number of security heartbeats connected. We can see Sandstorm files that have been scanned. We can see allowed application policies. We can see application categories. All of this data is being pulled out of my complete set of firewalls, remember. So this is looking right across the whole enterprise. And of course, as you would expect, these reports are interactive, so we can click on each of these circles here and we can get more information about things like the ATP alerts and so on and so forth. And each time I do this, it's refreshing the data on there and pulling forward that data from the firewalls under management. Now, as well as being able to use those pre-canned reports, we can also use the reporting generator as well. So the reporting generator allows us to build reports out that we're particularly interested in, and we can filter on a number of attributes. So again, what I'm going to do here is select some of the firewalls. And allow that data to come through, and yeah, you can see the results of those reports. So again, we can look at things like bandwidth usage that you see on the screen here, and we can look at some of these other pre-built reports. So if we want to learn more about advanced threats, for example, then we can pull out the report for that, and that will show us things like the IP addresses and the types of threats involved. So we can change our time ranges, and we can create customized reports as well. So we can select the dates that we want to see. What we'll do here is we'll generate a 7-day report. So this is giving us all of the web usage for the last 7 days. And you can see the categories in the top bar graph, and then you can see a text-based report below that gives us more information. And we can change the column selection if we want to. So if we're not interested in the attributes in the table as it's been built by Sophos, then we can change that and add or remove columns. So what we're going to do here is look at information by user instead, because that's obviously a much more useful report, and allow the report to regenerate. And what we'll see this time around is the categorization based on user. As well as being able to view bar graphs, we can also look at different types of chart. So pie charts, for example, line graphs, various different ways of displaying data in the most appropriate format for our particular purposes. And you can see we can scroll down this table and we can look at all of the different attributes in here. And again, all of these are clickable. So if we want to understand more about any one of these particular categories, then we can click through and add those categorizations to our report. So here we're adding in the category of gaming as a filter. And we can choose logical operators here, so we can use Boolean logic to change the way that reports actually are presented. So what we want to see here is activities that are in the category of games and gambling in this case. Now, I might be interested in broader fields as well. So if we're interested in unsuitable web usage, then I'm going to add in things like sexually explicit and weapons. So this is going to generate a 7-day report based on users that have tripped over these particular categories of website. And again, you can see the tables have been populated with all of the useful information in here. Now, if I'm only interested in a particular user group, for example, then I could also add that into the equation. And once I've created a report that I like the look of, then I can choose to save this as a template, and I can also choose to schedule this for automatic generation as well. So we can give the template a name, and we can enable the export features if we want to. So these reports will be distributed according to the rules we set in place here, including things like PDFs and email links. So I'm going to call this my blocked category report, and I'm going to create this as a daily report, and I want to export this on a daily basis as well. But I don't necessarily want to receive this information at weekends, and I can choose how long I want to keep resending this report. So I'm going to keep this going until I say otherwise, and I'm going to export in this case as a PDF, but you can see there are other exporting options there as well. And what I'm going to do here is send this as a link back to Sophos Central, but I could also send it as an attachment as well. Here are the other templates that I have, and I can choose to open another template if I want to. So I'm going to reopen the template that I just created, the block categories report. And I've also got an edit option here as well. So if I want to change the way those reports look or change some of the attributes associated with it, then I can go back into that update option and change the things that I want to change. So we can also go into the scheduler as well, and that will show us the reports that are due to be generated and by whom and what type of report they are. And you can also see the queue, so we can see here the reports that are in progress that are being generated as we speak. So you can see that's pretty much it for the overview of Sophos Central reporting. As you can see, lots of granularity, lots of ways of getting useful data out of your firewalls and exporting them in appropriate formats for yourself and for your colleagues in various different departments. So that wraps up the session for today. I hope you enjoyed it and found it useful, and I look forward to seeing you again very soon.